Frank Warren says that if he can't get Joe Joyce in the ring against Daniel Dubois in 2020, he hopes that somebody like Derek Chisora or Dillian Whyte will step up to the plate instead and face Dubois. And Dubois has said something similar himself. Now, some people are accusing Daniel Dubois of clout chasing. But me personally, I think that Dubois is doing exactly what he's supposed to do. You can call it clout chasing or whatever. At the end of the day, he's a 14-0 heavyweight prospect. He's very ambitious. He believes in himself. He wants to go all the way to the top. And one way that can help you get there is to start calling out the guys who are above you in the rankings and also the guys who are above you in terms of their public profile. You can start calling them out. Not only because you want to fight them, but also because mentioning their name all the time draws attention to yourself. So you can start selling more tickets. So you can build up your own fan base, start making more money. And eventually those fights against the fighters you're calling out become more realistic. So Daniel Dubois is doing the exact right thing by calling out Dillian Whyte, Chisora, and all these guys. He needs to keep doing it. I encourage Daniel Dubois to keep doing that. However, are those fights realistic for him right now? The likes of Dillian Whyte and Derek Chisora? Well, of course, we've had Deontay Wilder recently giving a shout out to Daniel Dubois and saying he likes Dubois as a prospect. And of course, the brain dead, zombie, PBC Wilder fans have latched onto that. I mean, most of them didn't even know Daniel Dubois existed prior to Wilder mentioning him. But now that Wilder mentioned him, they're saying, oh, well, Wilder says he's good, so he's obviously a serious fighter. Because in the minds of most demented PBC fans, if you're an Eddie Hearn fighter, you've got to be garbage. You've got to be a hype job. But if Deontay Wilder shouts you out, then that means you're good. So Deontay Wilder is the ultimate judge when it comes to knowing who is good and who's not in the world of boxing. I mean, we saw how good Deontay Wilder's judgment was going into the AJ Ruiz rematch, where he predicted that Ruiz would win very easily. So that's Deontay Wilder's judgment for you. But anyway, these demented people have now latched onto Daniel Dubois, and they're making out as though, oh, well, this is a fight that Dillian Whyte is supposed to take, and he's ducking Dubois. I don't want no parts of Dubois. What utter nonsense. And the hypocrisy of these people is, as usual, it's insane. Because here we have Dillian Whyte, who's been the number one contender for Wilder's belt for years, who has offered Deontay Wilder career-high money several times as number one contender, and Wilder's turned it down. And the PBC fanboys say, well, Dillian Whyte doesn't deserve a shot. But yet, Daniel Dubois isn't a ticket seller. He hasn't made a fraction of the money Dillian Whyte's made. He is an interim champion like Dillian Whyte is. He's not mandatory for Dillian Whyte's interim belt. But yet they think Whyte should fight him, but they don't think Wilder should fight Whyte. What brand of crack are you smoking? Dillian Whyte is not being offered career-high money to face Dubois, but Wilder was offered career-high money several times to face Whyte. And that's his number one challenger. Man, these people are so dumb, so hypocritical, it's mind-blowing. Acting like Dillian Whyte is scared of Daniel Dubois. Of course he's not scared of that. If Dillian Whyte is calling out Deontay Wilder and he wants to get in the ring with Wilder, why would he be scared of Dubois? Complete foolishness. Dillian Whyte is even calling out Andy Ruiz. He wants to fight Ruiz, but yet he's scared of Dubois. These guys, Wilder and Ruiz, are way more proven than Daniel Dubois. So how come he's not afraid to fight them, but he's afraid to fight people? Use your flipping brain. Right now, Daniel Dubois doesn't have anything that Dillian Whyte wants. Dillian Whyte has made millions in fights before. Can Daniel Dubois offer him millions? I mean, if Dillian Whyte is offered Daniel Dubois for $5 million, I'm sure they would never be able to come up with that kind of money. But hypothetically, if he was offered the Daniel Dubois fight for $5 million or the Andy Ruiz fight for $5 million, which fight do you think he would take? He's obviously going to take the Ruiz fight. Why? Because if he beats Ruiz, he gets a hell of a lot more credit. He just beat a former world heavyweight champion, somebody who knocked out Anthony Joshua. a proven fighter at world level. Whereas, and even if he loses to Ruiz, he can say, well, it was Andy Ruiz, former world heavyweight champion. But if he loses to Daniel Dubois, well, it's disaster for Dillian Whyte. And if he beats Daniel Dubois, people are going to look at him like he's a bully. He just beat up some young 22-year-old kid, 14-0. He's not going to get any credit either way, no matter what happens. So the only way Dillian Whyte would even consider fighting a Daniel Dubois is if they offer him crazy money. Dillian Whyte would be crazy to take that fight under any other circumstances. Let's be real. The only time I've seen a fighter do something like that, and even this wasn't as extreme as it would be for Whyte to fight Dubois right now. But the only thing I've seen similar to that was way back in the days when Gary Mason, who was 35-0 at the time, and he was on the brink of a world title shot, he dropped all the way back down to domestic European, Commonwealth level to take on Lennox Lewis, who was about 14-0. Gary Mason's pride, he wanted to be the daddy in Britain, the #1 British heavyweight. He let his pride get the best of him. He dropped back down to British, Commonwealth European level, fought Lennox Lewis, who was like 14-15-0, and basically his career was over. Because not only did he lose that fight, but he ended up with a detached retina, which basically, ended his career. He did fight a couple times after that in America, but to my knowledge, he never fought in the UK again. His career was done. Other than that, I can't remember a time when a heavyweight who's fighting, who's on the brink of fighting for a world title, who's making loads of money, who's made millions in purses, headlining pay-per-views. I've never seen a guy like that go all the way down to fighting a 14-0 British heavyweight champion. I've never seen that. Ever since Gary Mason and Lewis. So the idea that Dillian Whyte would do that or should be doing that is absurd. Wilder should be fighting Dillian Whyte. That's the interim champion now. For career high money to face the guy. That's who Wilder should be fighting. There's absolutely no incentive for Dillian Whyte to fight Dubois right now. Okay? Again, Dubois needs to call out Dillian Whyte. And eventually maybe he can raise his profile enough to make the Dillian Whyte fight realistic. But right now it's not realistic at all. Anybody with a brain, anybody with an ounce of objectivity knows that it's not a realistic fight right now. The Derek Chisora fight is slightly more realistic. But even then, Derek Chisora is apparently going to fight Alexander Usyk. So again, if Derek Chisora is offered similar money to fight Usyk versus fighting Dubois, who do you think he's going to fight? A guy who's former undisputed cruiserweight champion, who has a much bigger profile than Daniel Dubois, or you think he's going to fight a 14-0 prospect? Come on, people. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why Derek Chisora would choose Usyk over Dubois. And you seriously think Derek Chisora is afraid of Dubois? Derek Chisora, when he was like 15-16-0, he went in against Vitaly Klitschko. He fought David Haye. He fought Tyson Fury twice. You think he was going to fight Deontay Wilder, but Deontay Wilder didn't turn up to the press conference. You guys remember that? So you're trying to act as though Derek Chisora is scared of Dubois. Of course he's not scared of Dubois. But Dubois doesn't have anything he wants right now. Yeah, maybe if Derek Chisora loses badly to somebody like Usyk and Dubois manages to, get Joyce in the ring and beat Joyce and build his profile up a bit, maybe then Derek Chisora will want to fight him. But right now, he doesn't have anything that the heavyweights above him in the UK want. The most realistic fight for Daniel Dubois in terms of raising his profile is that showdown against Joe Joyce. And even then, it seems like Frank Warren is struggling to come up with the money. That's more realistic because, for one, it's an in-house fight. For two, both guys are around the same stage of their careers. Yeah, neither one of them has, done anything spectacular yet. Joe Joyce has got a better win on his record, let's be real, against Bryant Jennings. I know Bryant Jennings is, lost a few fights now, but that's definitely a better win on his record than anything Daniel Dubois has. So yeah, Joyce is probably a bit ahead of Dubois, to be fair. But they're still on a similar kind of level in terms of, or at a similar stage in their careers. Neither one of them is a big ticket seller. Neither one of them is a pay-per-view star. Neither one of them is a household name in the UK. Joe Joyce might be slightly more well-known simply because of the fact he was in the Olympics and he was a silver medalist. But it's similar. So if they offer Joyce the right money, again, I'm sure Joyce will get in the ring. If they just, offer him a bit more than they're offering him now. Because Joyce, again, he's not afraid of Daniel Dubois. He's sparred Daniel Dubois. He's been in the ring with top fighters in the World Series of Boxing, elite fighters in the amateurs. He's obviously not scared of him. But he understands the risk. And he wants to be adequately compensated for taking that risk. So, it is what it is. I wish Daniel Dubois nothing but the best. I like what he's doing in his career at the moment in terms of the way he's performing, taking people out, doing his job the way he's supposed to be doing it. But it is a little frustrating at this stage when it comes to, trying to take the next step because it all comes down to money. Some people are saying that Daniel Dubois needs to cut ties with Warren and go join Eddie Hearn. Well, he could probably move a lot faster if he did that. But does he need to move faster? That's the question. I'm not saying he does and I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm putting that out there as a question. When you're ready, you're ready. So even if you're 22, you might be ready to take the next step. And it really doesn't benefit you much continuing to fight at a particular level. You need to be stepped up. But at the same time, how ready is Daniel Dubois? It's hard to tell. Against the current level of opposition, almost impossible. I've seen loads of people getting carried away with Dubois, saying he's the best heavyweight in the world right now, that he would knock out Dillian Whyte and AJ and all these other guys. And they're adamant. I was watching a Boxing Beats and Rhymes video, and he was doing a mailbag, and one of the individuals was saying that if you know boxing, then you know that Daniel Dubois is like the most impressive young heavyweight since Mike Tyson. And if you know boxing, then you'll know this to be a fact. Well, it's the opposite. If you know boxing, then you'll know it's never good and never wise to get carried away with a prospect before he's actually beaten anybody. That's what you learn if you actually know boxing. So the person who said that clearly doesn't know boxing. Because if you look at AJ when he was on the way up, people were getting just as carried away with him. Saying, AJ's like the new Mike Tyson, but just a bigger version. This is what I saw some people saying. Crazy stuff. Daniel Dubois, he's knocking over the people he's supposed to be knocking over. AJ took out Kevin Johnson in 2 rounds several years before Daniel Dubois fought him, but Dubois went the distance. Of course, Dubois is going to look devastating against this level of opposition. It's an optical illusion. You seriously think that when he steps up, he's going to continue to look equally as devastating? I seriously doubt it. The thing about a young Mike Tyson on the way up is that he was strong in just about every area of his game. He had fast feet. He had fast hands. He was a tremendous puncher. He threw great combinations. He went the distance several times before he became heavyweight champion. His defense was good. He was able to evade people when coming forward. He had an inside game. He was dangerous on the outside even with jabs and long-range hooks and stuff like that. So with Mike Tyson, he ticked far more boxes than Daniel Dubois does as a heavyweight prospect. So the person who said that Dubois is obviously the most impressive heavyweight prospect since Mike Tyson, that person doesn't know boxing. Even Shannon Briggs, when he was a heavyweight prospect, he looked more impressive than Daniel Dubois. He was faster, he was explosive, he was flattening people and, doing all this kind of stuff. You go back and look at a young Shannon Briggs on the way up, he looked devastating. But the first time he came up against proper resistance, in the shape of Darryl Wilson, who was a fellow prospect, he got knocked out. And I'm telling you, Shannon Briggs looked more devastating and more explosive and all that faster than Daniel Dubois. So we won't know how good Dubois is until he faces somebody of some note, of some repute. So hopefully the Joe Joyce fight can get done. And if so, we'll learn more about him. And of course, that fight will do wonders for Daniel Dubois' profile if he manages to win it. Even if he scrapes by Joe Joyce and it's a controversial split decision, they could then run it back. And that creates interest. You know, they've created a domestic rivalry. They've created interest. And if Dubois gets through Joyce, either in one fight or two fights, he's in a much better position to then start once again challenging the Dillian Whytes and, you know, other people above him, because those fights will be more realistic then. There'll be more public demand for those fights because people know that Dubois is at least at a certain level if he can get through somebody like Joyce, an Olympic silver medalist, somebody who did well in the World Series of Boxing, somebody who's mixed, you know, in elite circles for a very long time. So, yeah, that's my take on Daniel Dubois and where he's at right now, you know, calling out Dillian Whyte and Chisora. Those fights are not realistic at the moment. He doesn't have the money, or his promoter Frank Warren doesn't have the money to get those opponents right now. Yeah, there's nothing in it for those opponents at all. They can make more money, or at the very least the same money, fighting more high prestige fighters who they're going to get a lot more credit from beating. So put some incentive on the table. Nobody out here is afraid. You know, none of these top guys like Dillian Whyte, they're not afraid of Daniel Dubois. That's ridiculous. Derek Chisora was trying to fight Deontay Wilder. Right? Dillian Whyte is still trying to fight Deontay Wilder. Why would they be afraid of Dubois? Use your brain, people. Yeah? It's just where they're at in their careers. Wilder needs to fight Dillian Whyte. That's his number one contender. That's the interim champion. That's a guy who's offered him career high money many times. Yeah, but as I've said before, is Dubois offering Dillian Whyte career high money? No, he's not. So why on earth would you defend Wilder not fighting Whyte, but then bash Whyte for not fighting Dubois? It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. It's Hatman, I'm out. Hatman merch is now available. We got t-shirts, vests, hoodies, and more. Just click the link below.